Hello and welcome to this webcast demonstration on how to configure iWave Storage Automator for initial use. iWave Storage Automator is a virtual appliance that can run on either VMware or KVM hypervisors. The virtual appliance includes OpenSUSE 12.1 for the operating system, Apache Tomcat for its application server, iWave Automator as its orchestration server, the JRE6 Java runtime environment, PostgreSQL 9.1 for the database, Apache ActiveMQ 5.6 as its message broker, and finally version 5.4 of the Drools Rules engine. The application should be installed in your VMware or KVM environment by your system's administrator and should be configured with 8 GB of RAM memory, 100 GB of disk space, and a minimum of 2 virtual CPUs with 4 recommended. Once the iWave vAppliance has been installed by your system's administrator, you will then need to configure iWave Storage Automator for initial use. This will include the following 4 steps. Step 1. Configure the primary administrator account. Step 2. Register your arrays that you plan to manage with iWave Storage Automator. Step 3. Register your network devices. And finally, Step 4. Register your storage host. To complete the first step of configuring the primary administrator account, I simply point my web browser to my newly installed iWave Storage Automator virtual appliance, and I'll be presented with the initial setup screen. In the initial setup screen, I can specify the name of the administrator account. I can then associate an email address with that administrator account. In this case, I'm going to use admin@iwavesoftware.com. I can then enter the password for the administrator account and of course have to confirm it. And then finally I can verify that my base URL for the UI is set equal to the instance of my virtual appliance by just comparing the value in the base URL to the value in my web browser. At this point, now that I've verified it, I can click on Save, and I'll be presented with a confirmation message that everything's been set up correctly. And then I'll have an opportunity to log in with my newly established primary administrator account. So I'll provide my email address, provide the password. If I click on the Remember Me box, it'll remember the user ID, of course, not the password. And at this point, I'll be able to click on the Log On button, and I'll be presented with the iWave Storage Automator Administrator's Portal. And at this point I can use the Administrator's Portal to complete steps 2 through 4. So let's now complete step 2 and register an array. From the Administrator's Portal, let's click on Assets, verify that storage arrays have been selected, and then since we're going to just add a single array for purposes of this demonstration, we're going to use the user interface. So in this case we're just going to click on Add. Another option for us is to import this information from an Excel spreadsheet. So if I wanted to enter in, say, 100 different arrays into the tool, you can probably best do that with a spreadsheet that we provide with the product that I'll show in just a second. So in this case, I'm going to click on Add just to add a single array, and I'm going to select on the array type. And note that the input fields required will change by the array type. So in this case, we're going to add a Dell compellent array, and you'll see that one of the fields that have changed is the port worldwide numbers. And that's because for most arrays we can introspect that information by querying the array's API. In the case of Dell, we actually have to require that the storage administrator enter that information. So speaking of that spreadsheet, let's flip on over to it. So this is a view of the spreadsheet that we provide with the product, and it provides tabs for organizing your host information, organizing your various vCenters that you want to register with the tool, your Cisco switches, Brocade switches, and the various arrays that we support. In this case, I'm going to come over and just verify the information that I have for my Dell Compellent. I'm going to see that the friendly name that we've assigned to it is simply Compellent. The SSH port is 22, and then I have the user ID and password information as well as the TCP/IP address. So let's go back over to the tool and let's fill this information in. Enter in my friendly name, my TCP/IP address for the array, the administrator's ID and password, and then the port WWN. So in this case, I'm simply going to tab back over to my spreadsheet and then cut and paste my WWNs into my dialog box. Okay, at this point I'm going to define which user roles have access to the array, and for purposes of the demonstration we're going to go ahead and set it up for both the administrators, the approvers, and the users role. There's ways once the array is established and once the services are established for the array to further lock down the security, but we're just going to set up these initial restricted groups. And at this point I'm going to click on Save to register the array, and now the array is ready for use by the tool. Completing steps 3 and 4 is just as easy as adding a storage array. I'm going to click on Switches. I'll see that I already have one Brocade switch registered with the tool. I'd like to go ahead and register the Brocade switch for the redundant path, so I'm going to click on Add. I'll click on Type of Brocade, enter in the name of the switch, enter in the switch's IP address, and again, to recall that information, I can simply go over to my spreadsheet and see that it's .79, so 10.2.1.79. Port number, I believe, is 22, correct. Enter in the user ID and password for the switch. Click on Save, and now I've registered my redundant Brocade switch with the tool. Likewise, to enter in a host, I click over to Host, click on Add, and in this case I'm going to register a Linux host called Aura1. To get the IP address, again I'm going to go back over to my spreadsheet, see that it's located at address 90. Again, communicates on port 22, and we'll enter in the administrator ID and password. I will also define who can have access to this host. Again, for purposes of this demonstration, I'm going to go ahead and give administrators, approvers, and users access to the host, and now the host is registered. So now you've completed the 4 steps that are required to initially configure an iWave storage automator appliance for initial use. You've configured the primary administrator account, registered the arrays that you'd like to manage with the tool, registered your network devices and also your storage host, and at this point we can go in and begin to execute services that are defined within the service catalog against these items. For more information on iWave Storage Automator, you can follow iWave Software on Twitter, like us on Facebook, follow us on LinkedIn, and as always, you can visit our website at www.iwavesoftware.com. Thanks for attending today's webcast. We hope to hear back from you real soon.